Alrighty. And so I'm sure we have quite a few updates, things happening in the police department to go over. And I've been seeing, different crashes. And I'm sure the traffic officers are staying busy as well.
Always. We run about 280 accidents a month in town, so there's a lot of activity going on always.
Wow. And with the house fires or any structural fire, are officers also called out to those situations?
Well, it depends. If the fire department's laying fire hoses across roads and blocking roads, then we'll have officers go out to prevent traffic from running over the fire hose and damaging them, tearing them up. If it's a
Okay.
major commercial fire, then we may have to block off, you know, areas around it.
Okay. I'm sorry. Hold that thought, Chief. I'm a little behind. Oh, good morning. Welcome to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. Sorry for the delay. I'm your host, Kavila Jones. My special guest is Chief Rick Elliott from the Jonesboro Police Department. It's the first Wednesday of the month, so you already know what time it is. So since I've got us late, I'm gonna just go ahead and let you just start off, Chief, with any updates that we need to know what's happening around the city of Jonesboro.
Well, first, I'll say good morning to everybody that's tuned in, listening in this beautiful morning. Um, as far as updates going on in PD, it's kind of business as usual. A lot of there's always a lot of moving parts within the police department. Our monthly report will be coming out next or this week. And if
Okay.
anybody's interested in our crime stats and our numbers, you can go to our website at jonesboropolice.com and look at those monthly reports and just kind of see what kind of call volume that we do as far as the police department and across the county, and look at the call volume that comes into to the dispatch center. But last month we answered over 6,000 calls.
Yeah.
So between 5 and 6,000 calls a month, we're dealing with typically. So, that's a lot of calls for service throughout the city. And we were talking about accidents a while ago. We've been averaging 270 to 280 plus accidents a month in Jonesboro, and that's it's kind of high, but we do have a lot of traffic, and people get distracted on their cell phone device, and that's attributes to a lot of our accidents. So distracted driving is, sometimes has consequences, and that's a crash, and sometimes it can be even a deadly crash. So we just want to caution people again to stay off your device while you're driving, and keep focused on that.
Right. There needs to be a whole like nationwide camp. It probably is, and I'm just unaware, but like
There
a
actually is. The National Highway Transportation Safety Department, we do national campaigns on distracted driving. I actually have some grant money to pay officers overtime just to write distracted driving tickets.
I
And,
don't know what it's going to take to get folks to just put your phone down. And or I wish there was some way to, most phones have a feature where if you're in the car but you have to
right.
turn it on, you're like the people that's trying to text you or call you will get a automated message saying this person is driving at the moment. They'll answer you about whatever it says. And so like that feature needs to be activated all times, especially in the traffic that we have here in Jonesboro.
Of course, a lot of newer vehicles, you can do a lot of things by Bluetooth with your phone, so you're not actually manipulating buttons. You can text by your voice controls, and hey, if I can do it, then you can learn to do it also. And so, you can stay focused and still do what you need to do. But we strongly encourage Bluetooth devices for answering the phone instead of having to pick it up and hold it to your face. Uh, that's that's problematic. But a lot of the newer cars, that's just a general feature now, which is a good thing.
Right, we have some comments, people checking in. Good morning to everyone. Ms. Linda Johnson Fraser says Grand Rising, Kelly K. Hello, Chief Rick Elliott, my friend. Miss Vivian Taylor says good morning. Yes, focus on newer vehicles. And Miss Cora Evans says good morning. And yes, Miss Vivian, we are taking questions. Drop them in the box. And Miss Linda says you can set your phone to do not disturb while driving. And good morning to Mr. Derek Coleman. So yes, we
Hey,
need to
good morning.
all whatever we can do to keep each other safe, because it's not just you on the road. There are other people, their families, and there are a lot of younger people driving now as well.
Well,
And so,
you look at the people driving. You have drivers that are brand new, you know, 15, 16 years old that are out here, driving in this amount of traffic. And then, you have experienced drivers and non-experienced drivers. And then a lot of times you get into people that's due to their age, they maybe shouldn't be driving because, their motor skills and, are not as fast as they used to be. And so, there's lot going on our streets. And like I said, we have a lot of accidents as a result of. And if we all did our part and do a little bit better, we can certainly cut those accidents down because, in the long run, your insurance rates, will be affected by all those accidents. We're going to pay for it one way or another, you know, to some degree.
okay. I want to ask, and I'm looking at the Facebook page, and I know last month we had Sergeant Racy on, and he
Mhm.
talked about his new role, and you all trying to increase community policing and getting the police more engaged or as much as possible with the community so that we can build a better community. And so I'm looking at one picture where a parent, I'm guessing, brought their child, and the officer
Yeah,
Nelson was able to engage. And so, how has some of those efforts been going? I know, again, with COVID, you're limited, but
it really has. Since March and COVID kicked in, all of our community outreach projects have come to stop. Our Citizen Police Academy, we had just one night under our belt and we had to cancel the class. Of course, our cookouts, our trunk or treat, everything that we normally do and that we engage the community with this year, we just weren't able to do. And so there's been some one-on-one events. We've had several people bring their child up here. Parents are at home with the kids. They're looking for activities to do to get out of the house. And
okay.
we're welcome to, bring your child by and they can, we'll show them the police station inside the police cars and let them turn on the lights and siren, things like that. So, the kids get a kick out of it, but the officers enjoy it too. They like interacting with our young adults. And so, and it's a good way to have some interaction, but it's on a small scale. But with COVID going on, unfortunately, that's the way we have to do it is a little bit smaller scale. But I think the end of this COVID stuff, hopefully is in sight, and we're kind of looking ways to kind of get back and engage with the community. We are looking at maybe doing a CPA class by Zoom
Okay.
meeting. We I've talked to Shay about that, and then we do have a new setup in our training room with Zoom capabilities. We spent some money and had cameras and things and sound system put in so we can have a big Zoom class.
Okay.
So I think that is something we we'll try to get off the ground here, hopefully in the next few months.
Okay.
Get that going. And we may be able to bring a few people in to class and maintain social distancing and kind of rotate, every week a few people can come in, then everybody else will Zoom. Then when we do hands-on projects, we'll bring a few in at a time to do those. So
Okay.
we're trying to figure out the logistics on doing what we were doing with CPA. We just have to kind of break it up in smaller segments. But of course, with Zoom, anybody could get on at that point and you know and participate.
All right. We have a question in the feed. Ms. Vivian says there was an AR-15 pulled on a permitted march on 531, and from JPD up I'm guessing with JPD up the road. What's the status of the charges in that case? Um, and she mentions a name, John Bose or Bose, Bose. I don't know if you can talk about the details of that, but
Yeah, with COVID going on and the courts being shut down, a lot of our cases are being backlogged. So I don't think there's been anything done on that case yet, as with many others, just because the the court's not going on. So I know a lot of cases have been pushed out several months down the road, even in our traffic court. Ticket schedule for now have been pushed out to May. So there is a big backlog of cases. So I do know it hadn't been disposed of yet. So it's still in the docket somewhere to be dealt with by the court system. It's out
oh
of our
well.
control in the prosecutor's hands at this point.
Okay. Another question was, since she mentioned guns, as you know, the Stand Your Ground bill SB 24, made its round again back to the Arkansas legislation, well, the House and the Senate. And so, have people been contacting the police department, even though they've been directed to contact their representatives concerning this matter? Have people contacted the police department to express their views on this particular, or in try to sway your participation one way or another on this bill?
Well, no, I've only spoke to the media about this. I have no control over legislation, so it's all on them. Um, I understand, as I said in the media, I understand both sides of the argument, but as with most people, I got reservations about the bill. Uh, so still not a fan of it, and you know, I don't know if they'll go back to committee or what they're going to do with it, or if making revisions or what. But they'd have to
Well, I
make
got them.
quite a few before we'd be content with it. But it says, as I said before, the laws are clearly written already that you've always had a right to protect yourself. Uh, so as long as you're not the initial aggressor, then those laws already exist. People are really not gaining anything, um, and I think the biggest concern is that if somebody just felt use the words, "Oh, I'm threatened," and start shooting. Well, I think that's the biggest concern out there right now, that just people
Mm-hmm.
just to be shooting. And I certainly understand that, and I certainly could see where that could happen with some of the people we deal with. You get a hothead out here, and that can you know happen very
It's like
quickly.
it's like under this bill, and I had a discussion with NAACP on Monday, and so we read through a few of the details, and the wording is um, what gives you that gray area, and it leaves a lot for interpretation for the
That's right.
individual. It almost gives them, like you said, it gives them the opportunity. And again, this is my personal opinion, not the opinion of Kelly Kay. It gives the person who is being, I guess, attacked, um, it almost gives them the right to say, I could have retreated, but because of this bill, I know that I'll be protected if I use deadly force. So anyway, I did get a message from someone that's working closely with lobbying against this particular bill, and it says, "Stand Your Ground is still alive. Sponsors will likely try procedure to move today to extract it from committee and force a vote on the House floor. And so then, if you would like to express your views one way or the other, you can text Arkansas to 64433. So, um, for those of you who are opposed to it, text your legislators and let them know how you feel. Or call them and leave a voicemail. But as you hear, and I want to ask this one more question. We can move on. I think we have some other. Okay, we have another question. Um, and I'll ask her a question. Oh, okay. If we were victims of that, what do we do?
That
So
incident, we're talking about that incident and
no,
here.
if the bill passes and
Oh,
someone is a victim of that, um, and force is used against them, like, and they don't die,
right.
what are
Yeah.
their rights?
Well, in any situation where deadly force, whether it's knife or gun, whatever is used upon another person, there's going to be an investigation, and the prosecutor, has the ultimate and the final say on whether that case will be prosecuted or not. So the police are going to come. Police are going to be involved. If that person did so wrongfully, then obviously they can be prosecuted and then turn around and be sued civilly. So it's the same now as it was even before this bill. The prosecutorial end of it and the civil end of it has not changed and will not change. So those rights are still there, but you know,
Okay. So I mean, there's just discussion more that needs to be had, but I feel that we as the citizens of Arkansas need to again express to our representatives, senators, whoever, let them know how we feel. It's our responsibility to talk to them. We elected them, or whoever you voted for did, whoever is in office, they represent us now. You need to have a
you're exactly right.
conversation with them.
You're 100% right that if you want your voice to be heard, then make the text or the phone call or whatever, uh, and let them know. And the numbers add up. They're important to the legislators that we've had this many calls for or against whatever we're trying to do. So they do listen to the people that they serve, and so they're getting it from both sides. People wanting the bill and people opposing the bill. So again, if you're opposed, then take 5 minutes and make that text or that call, as Kabila said, and let your voice be heard.
I want to ask another. Oh, okay. No, she was talking about the incident. I'm sorry. On 531.
Oh, okay.
Um, and she
Well,
says no.
I'm sorry, that incident, like I said, it's still at the prosecutor's office. There's again, that's up to them what they're going to do on the criminal end of it, and then you know, if they're not satisfied with that, then there's also civil recourse. But again, that's out of my hands, police department's hands. We do the investigation. It turns over to the prosecutors, and they have the ultimate and final say, not us.
Okay, and so also, um, she's like, no, nobody contacted us who were victims of it, and so I don't know how that goes or what's supposed
Right?
to
They
happen.
can they can certainly reach out to the prosecutor's office. They should have a victim witness case coordinator, and they should be able to update her on the status of the case and that kind of information.
Okay, I have another comment, and I wanted to move on to something else I saw on your page, but I don't want people to feel like I'm ignoring their comments. Mr. Coleman says police has been using this part of the bill because the word threat is definitely used by police officers time after time. It normally justifies them to use deadly force. We have seen that in a lot of cases where some officers said they felt threatened or
Right.
I don't know, unsafe in a situation when they're encountering someone. Any comments on that?
Well, it's what a reasonable the courts look at what a reasonable person uh, believes in that particular situation. And if you're there in that situation and that you feel that you're in a deadly force situation, then you're going to have to articulate that and justify it down the road. And the courts will look at it, and a jury look at it as that was that reasonable or not. Uh,
Mm.
you know. if you were put in the same situation, what would you do? If you get a bunch of people and that's the general consensus that, hey, I would have done the same thing, then that was reasonable. So
Okay.
that's the way the law is written. That's the way our policy is written. Um, but yeah, you're threatening officer with a deadly weapon, then they have the right to use deadly force.
Okay. I know we're getting close to a break here, so I'm going to save my other topic for when we come back, because it's concerning mental health,
Sure.
encountering individuals with mental health, and initiative that you all are taking. And want to say good morning to Leganzi Kill. We give him a moment to jump in. So for those of you listening on the air, you're tuning in to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. I'm your host, Wheeler Jones. Leganzi Kill, General Manager, jumps on. You want to say hey?
Good morning, everyone. I had to run some errands, so I'm jumping on a little late. I do have a question for Chief, in which we'll pick up on the other side of the break.
All right, so if you want to jump on Facebook, we'll continue the conversation, but lightly, because we don't want you to miss out on any details. And we'll be right back after these announcements. Okay, so I want to thank everyone for their questions, and there's some other comments here concerning the previous discussion. Miss Linda was giving Miss Vivian some suggestions on either contacting the police department, attorney general's office, not attorney, the prosecuting attorney's office. Miss Vivian said there were like 50 people marching.
Well,
Um, huh,
I think the incident she was talking about was
in May.
the Black Lives Matter protest last summer. I
Yeah.
was there live streaming, and I remember I didn't see the incident up close in person. I remember I was live streaming, and I saw a whole bunch of people running, and I saw the vehicle in question, and I was trying to like get his license plate on my live feed. I don't think I captured it because I wasn't close enough. And people in the crowd were saying that someone had fired a shot. It was a pretty chaotic scene that day. But
Yeah.
that's the incident in which she was referencing.
And Miss Linda brings up a good point. Well, I don't know, just not just concerning that, but she says my concern is when people are angry, their ability to think reasonably sometimes goes out the window. And she says, Grand Rising Legansing.
Yep, I saw that on the comments.
So, I mean, I think this is a discussion like
Well,
Chief isn't.
We'll go ahead.
No, Chief has mentioned many times we need to have more conversations with each other.
But Chief has always said talk to each other, not at each other.
I think the more we get to know each other as citizens of this city, we have to live here together. Whether you like everybody is another story, but we have to live together. This is where you choose to raise your kids, work, whatever you choose to do here. So we have to find a way to get along, some kind of way. I know that seems outlandish to some people, but we
it
have.
is. And if you look at even the past couple days, so KEIT did the story about KLEK's Black History events, and some people didn't like it, and it got to the point to where the general manager basically had to put out a statement, condemning all the things it was saying, and so he was attacked, for just saying, hey, we're not going to tolerate hateful comments on our platform. So, sadly, the very community in which we live in is deeply divided.
Chief, we got about 50 seconds. You guys want something you want to add?
No, I mean Leganzi's right. There's always people in the community that no matter what you do, they don't want togetherness, so they're not going to work together, and they got hate-filled hearts. And I don't know how to overcome those kind of individuals. It's unfortunate, but the reality is it's out there. But on our end, we just have to keep moving forth every day and try to bring the community together in spite of the haters. Just it's unfortunate that that there's people like that. But again, when you do the job that we do day in and day out, you see more of it than not.
Okay. Welcome back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. I'm your host, Kabila Jones. My guest today is Chief Rick Eillott from the Jonesboro Police Department, and also joining us is Station Manager Lagenzi Kell. All right, so Lagenzi, did you want to ask your question now?
Okay, so Chief, on January 6th, everyone knows about the riot, the incident that happened at the U.S. Capitol. After that event, and it was discovered that there were police officers in some jurisdictions that were there that day, which obviously caused some concerns. To the best of your knowledge, are you aware of if any JPD officers were there that day?
No, to my knowledge, none were there. No.
Okay, that was my question.
Yeah, no, I've heard about that already, but as shorthanded we are, and I don't. Nobody went up there for that.
Okay. Alrighty. If you had found out, now it's look, I'm not trying to criticize anyone's beliefs. You believe who you want, believe what you want, vote for who you want, whatever, whatever. But if you found out, not even with just that incident, that your officers were involved in something that was deeply divisive, um, when they're supposed to be protecting the citizens, what would be your reaction or actions taken with your
Well,
officers?
yeah, going to the Capitol incident, the mere fact that somebody went to Washington D.C. to support the president at the time, there's nothing wrong with that. That's not the issue. When you trespass on those grounds and going through buildings and start violating federal laws, then you're facing criminal prosecution. As everybody that went inside and did that damage and hurt officers, they're all facing federal prosecution. And the FBI is identifying these people one by one, day in and day out, and they're taking them before the grand jury to be federally prosecuted. And unfortunately, there's some police officers that got tangled up in that mess, from not here, but from other areas of the country. And bottom line is, they're going to lose their job and end up facing federal prosecution because they got tied up in the moment, wrapped up in the moment, and acted like the rest of the people. And so it's going to cost them. They'll pay for it. But
Yeah.
that kind of uh, civil unrest, is not tolerated. It's like civil unrest we've had across the country. Technically, all those people that did criminal acts, they can face criminal prosecution also. And in many cases, they have been identified and arrested. Mainstream media doesn't put that out there. Some of these other protests in these other cities across the country, there have been many arrests of people who committed violent acts and destroyed buildings, after the fact. But our mainstream media doesn't put that out there. But I do see that information.
Okay. Alrighty. So I want to move on
Well,
to
I just
another.
wanted to say this before
Okay.
we move on. And again, Chief brought this up, and I just wanted to reiterate it, just to be clear. For those that came and supported President Trump that day, I mean, that is their right if they want to see him speak and attend the protest. But again, like he said, once you actually breach that barricade, you're trespassing, and
Right.
you're actually breaking the law, no matter who you actually supported in the election. And that was the crux of the issue.
You're correct. And as with any protest, it's not the protest that is the problem. It's the people that go beyond the protest and start destructive behavior becomes the problem. So, again, when you look at everything going on across the country, it's not the protest, it's the ones that wants to start tearing up things, burning things down. That becomes a problem.
Yeah.
And so that's the issue. And like I said, those people, they've got consequences. And if my people are involved in that aspect of it, then we'd certainly deal with it. Because again, they're facing federal prosecution, and once they get arrested, then they're not going to be employed.
Okay. All right. So another issue that we've had conversation on many times, and the community has spoke up very loudly about, is how the office, not necessarily just Jonesboro, but how police encounter individuals with mental health issues. And
Right.
so I'm looking at a post that was on your page. You are partnering with, not that you haven't been, but is there something new, something more elevated that you're working on with Mid-South Health Systems and Arisa Health? It says to train officers all across Northeast Arkansas to become certified under the Crisis Intervention Team program. So talk about this initiative.
Sure. This has actually been an ongoing initiative for several years. Back when we talked about the crisis, even getting a crisis stabilization unit here in Craighead County several years ago, this training began for our officers then, getting some officers trained up to go out and deal with people with mental issues. And they can do a pre-screening, and that person meets the criteria, then they can get them to the crisis stabilization unit. And on our post the other day, we were the CIT was recognizing Officer Susan Gray, who
Yeah.
has gone above and beyond the call of duty on dealing with people with mental health issues. She has dealt with several of them during her day shift hours. She does quite well dealing with people with mental issues. Just her calm, reassuring voice and her care and compassion about uh, people with mental issues. She just fits well into that program. And so she was honored recently as the CIT's Officer of the Quarter. The governor, part of the governor wanted the at least 20% of every agency to have 20% of their officers trained uh, in this area of dealing with mental health issues. And right now we have a little over 30 officers trained in our agency and have more training scheduled. So, 44% of our patrol division is already CIT trained, and that's more than any other agency around. Period. So we stepped up and we saw the importance of this program early on, and when the training came out, we got officers in. It's a 40-hour training, so I can not get a whole bunch in all at once, but due to shift concerns. So, but when the class does come up, we get people to come in, officers to come in and participate and get them certified in this area. We do have another training scheduled with them in the upcoming months.
Okay.
Good, and we'll hopefully get another at least 10 to 12 officers through that session. So it's an ongoing. Our goal is to get at least all of our patrol officers and negotiators through this program, because it does give them a few more tools in dealing with people with mental issues.
Okay. All right. So I'm seeing a post about the officers meeting with the new football coach. I want to ask concerning Arkansas State University, how closely does the JPD work with? Because I know some of your areas of operation, I guess, if that's the word, they
Sure,
intermingle with each other. So,
they
and
do.
how do you handle those cases?
Yeah. Well, first we have a great partnership with Arkansas State University. They have a small police department. So when you have large events out there, such as football, basketball, concerts, and things like that, we have to supplement security with JPD officers and sometimes officers from the sheriff's office. Like football, the game day, there's about 30 off-duty JPD officers working out there, along with off-duty deputies and troopers that are brought in. So there's a lot of law enforcement assets that are brought in to protect the fans on game day, such as football. And then basketball, you're still looking at, 8 to 10 officers to work a basketball game. So when you get into a concert, obviously you get into more officers. But the bottom line is we have a great relationship with ASU. Always have had a good relationship with them. Obviously, if anything went bad out there, as it did a few years ago when the guy on the lawn in front of the student union showed out, I had 20 officers on that campus in less than 5 minutes.
Wow.
So we're here to protect everybody and those students out there. we want you to come to school, feel safe, and you know what, something does happen, we're on it. But we've always had a good working relationship with the athletics departments. Uh, Coach Jones is no exception. It's a pleasure to go out and meet him. This coach is very exciting to sit down and talk to. I think he's going to bring good things to the program. Excited to see the changes. We love Blake Anderson. Coach Anderson, he had my cell phone. I had his cell phone. If either one of us ever needed anything, or we could always call each other. And I extended the same opportunity with Coach Jones that, hey, here's my cell phone number, and we exchanged, and like, hey, whatever we can do, we're here to support you and support athletics. But uh, Coach Jones comes from a law enforcement family. His father was a retired police officer, police chief, and he had other relatives in law enforcement. So he's law enforcement minded. So he wants see law enforcement involved in the athletic program, just as being there and support of our young athletes that are out there, and uh, create a bond and kind of bridge the gap as we're trying to do with other community projects. Our student athlete and student population, there's no difference. We want to create those bonds also with our students on campus.
Okay. Thank
Very
you.
positive. We're excited.
So,
I said very positive. We're very excited, to see the upcoming football season.
okay. Awesome. Looking at another post, this is about, not Corporal Jeremy Wills.
Wheeler,
He received accommodation. So, can you talk about that? And then, what are some other things some of the other officers are doing? I'm just seeing various posts. If anyone wants to find out more of this stuff, please go to the Jonesboro Police Department's Facebook page. They have all kinds of postings, good, bad, and ugly. So go check them out. But
that's
let's talk
right.
about Officer Corporal Wheels
It's a Corporal Jeremy Wheelis.
Willis. Oh,
Uh,
okay. I put my glasses on.
yeah, he was recently commended for his efforts in dealing with a suicidal subject the other day. Gentleman has had we've had several encounters with over the past few weeks prior to this incident, and on this particular day, we encountered this individual, and Willis was on the phone with him, trying to get him to put down his firearm and go and get some help. This individual did have a mental health counselor that he was dealing with, and uh, but unfortunately, it didn't work out. After several hours of negotiation, the individual ended up shooting himself. But uh, Wheelis did an excellent job just on the phone with him, trying to get him to see that, hey, there's other alternatives than to killing yourself and dealing with situations. And that's what we deal with people that are in a mental health crisis state. You get to the point and broke down to the point that, you're so, your world is just closed in on you, and you're not seeing an out. And uh, a lot of times across country, there's not enough mental health resources. I mean, mental health issues across the country is a in crisis state, and you know the police cannot fix all the problems, but again try to equip our officers with some knowledge and help getting people from a critical point to maybe a mental health facility, where they won't harm themselves. But and sometimes that doesn't work out either. I mean, you can get counseling, and there's things you can do for people, and sometimes it just doesn't work out, and they end up harming themselves anyway, which is unfortunate. But that's what we see, way too often. And during this whole pandemic thing, our calls of people threatening suicide have seen an increase in numbers. And it's kind of concerning that, being people isolated and at the house and confined, I think it's starting to take a mental toll on some people. So that's another reason that we, one, want the people to do what you're supposed to do in regards to the pandemic so we can get over this thing and get our lives back to some kind of normalcy. But anyway, the bottom line is that, we try to train officers in dealing with these kind of issues. And again, it's just to get them from that crisis state to a mental health state where they can be taken care of. But we expect a lot of our officers. You look at the amount of training that these officers go through. Their basic academy, they have to learn how to do first aid, learn how to apply tourniquets, learn how to use Narcan. Now we're having to teach them to learn how to deal with mental health. And the list goes on and on and on about the different training and what's expected of a police officer nowadays. And so, we're not experts in any of these fields. We just get a little bit of the working knowledge to get from the person from one place to another, and hopefully get them out of a crisis situation. But so we have taken a very aggressive approach to the CIT program and working with them out there. We do see the benefit, and it is an asset to have this facility right here in Jonesboro, because if it was in another area, then we're on the road transporting this person to another area. So for location, it's a great benefit to us, and just another tool in our belt